I get this question all the time, and the answer may actually surprise you. So, one of the most common questions people ask me is, what do you think about diet X? And I think people usually want me to say either it's amazing or it's trash, but here's the truth. It's none of those things. And I think people just want an easy answer. I think people just want, yes, do this and it'll be easy and it'll be great, or don't do this, it's all made up and fake. But the truth is, it kind of doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, what actually works is just a caloric deficit. And I know I've had discussions with some of you about the impact of calories and the importance of calories and what a caloric deficit and macro tracking and all of that stuff. And I know some of you don't believe in it or are still on the fence, and that's okay. But hopefully by the end of this, I can prove that it kind of doesn't matter. And the studies, the random humanized control studies, prove it as well. So let me show you the pattern. Let me show you why I don't really have a great answer for the best diet. So let's take a look at a couple of the common ones. So low carb, that's one that's super common. And I know people love to do low carb because they can lose weight. But the problem is they always gain it back and they usually gain more back. And how do people lose weight? Well, you cut out a major food group, so you have fewer calories. When you're not eating carbs, you're eating things that are less calorically dense, like no more cookies or sweet rolls or just the things that have the fat and the sugar, and you have 2 bites and it's 400 calories, right? So you're not eating that stuff. So naturally, you're gonna be low calorie. So you're creating a caloric deficit by cutting out an entire food group. But it's just not sustainable. Like, we love carbs, and carbs are great. Veggies are great. Fruit is great. Healthy bread is great. And let's be honest, dessert and cookies, they're great. So low carb kind of sucks. I don't recommend it. People do like it. Carnivore. So try overeating when you're just eating steak, when you're just eating meat. Proteins have high satiety compared to other types of food, and the budget, for meat can get a little out of hand when you're on carnivore. So it's gonna be really hard to overeat when you're only eating carnivore, when you're only eating those proteins. So it's again, a built-in limit. So you're not gonna be having the calorically dense foods. Again, same as low carb. It looks similar, but it just kind of has a different focus than the low carb. And carnivore can be great. I know some friends who have had great success on it, who've had really great mental clarity. And I myself, I do actually want to try it at some point because, one, I just love the idea of eating meat all the time. Like, that just sounds really, really fun. And I'm super interested in exploring. I want to explore kind of the mental clarity and things that can happen when you are on carnivore. So that's something that I will probably actually try at some point. And I'll be able to eat within my protein and my macros and my carbs and my calories, but I'll probably have to supplement to make sure that I'm getting the other nutrients that I need as well. All right, keto, kind of the same thing as carnivore, fats and protein. The protein is going to be super filling and the fat's hyper palatable, but again, with no carbs, you're going to be you're going to have fewer total calories. So you're going to be calorically restricting again that way. So each of these diets are restricting what you're eating. Intermittent fasting, that one's super clear as well. You have a smaller eating window, right? So you have less time to overeat. So it's the end of the night and you can't eat. You're not going to eat. You're restricting the time you eat. So you're restricting your calories. You're actually creating a deficit. So if you're doing like 18-6 or something like that, where you fast for 18 hours and you eat for 6 hours, it's really hard to eat over 1,500, over 2,000 calories in that 6-hour window. You just are so full, which is a great mechanism. I think the biggest challenge though is, again, you're not going to be getting all the nutrients typically because it's hard to eat the right amount of nutrients in that short amount of time. So you'll also need to supplement. So intermittent fasting can be a little difficult and can be a little impractical, but I do know some people who've had really great effect with it. So that can be really great. Okay. And then the last one, and this is one that, I don't think people want to hear about, but I think it's the most important. It's the one that I always recommend. So back at the top, I was like, people want to know, is this the best? Is this the worst? And typically there's no real good answer to that. But I think this is probably the best way to eat. And we have this idea of tracking our macros. We have this idea of moderation. And this is my favorite because it teaches you that virtue of moderation. And who doesn't need more moderation in their lives, whether it's with entertainment, with your phone, with your job, with, just pick anything. We probably need better moderation. And food is the top thing we need moderation with, probably. I mean, just look at the obesity numbers in the US. So I can have an Oreo, but I'm not going to have a whole sleeve. Bread, Sure, but I don't need 4 pieces. And alcohol, 2 cocktails is plenty. I don't need 4 beers or 6 beers. Beers in? It's like goose. This is why I love it, because you know what you're putting into your body. You're tracking the calories, you're tracking the protein, the carbohydrates, and the fats, and you're setting those levels at healthy levels for your goals. So I know that I'm getting the protein my body needs to build muscle, to have energy, the fats that my brain and hormone production need, and the carbs to keep the body going and to fuel you throughout the day in a good way. And then from there, you can also kind of min-max with higher quality food, right? So sourdough bread as opposed to super processed white stuff, just having simpler ingredients and having more natural things, fruits and veggies, making sure you're getting in those foods so that you're getting the micronutrients that your body needs as well. So that's why I always recommend macro tracking. And when you do it and when people actually stick to it, when they're honest about it, everyone always sees the results that they want, whether that's weight loss, maintenance, or even muscle gain. So it's huge and I love it. And it's something that I think is gonna be most consistent and repeatable, because here's the TLDR. What's the best diet? It's the one that you actually stick to. So low carb, everyone's done, and then everyone blows that up and swings back the other way and typically gains more weight. So I'd never recommend that one. But the others, sometimes people do stick to some of those habits, and the macro tracking and the moderation, I think, is the best way to be able to live life. As Catholics, we have feast days all the time. So we're always feasting. So how do you feast if you're low carb or you're not eating these foods? Well, moderation. Have a little bit, or have a little splurge on this day and then a little bit of reduction on another day. So again, the best diet is the one that you actually stick to and the one that teaches your body to crave the right nutrients. So once you start positioning your meals and your days so that you're getting the protein, you're getting the calories, you're getting the nutrients you need in the right amounts, and your body's gonna start craving that. And honestly, it starts to just get easier. You don't have to think about it as much, and it just works. So that's what we're thinking about today. Don't restrict like a maniac and then binge and then burn out and then whip back and forth. That's just not sustainable. And it's not about rules, it's about rhythm. It's about long-term repeatability. And in all things, I'm gonna say that moderation wins. And that's what we do at Fortus. We develop discipline, flexibility, and that drives results. And that's in faith, family, and fitness and health. So DM me for your free Kickstart guide. And in that, we walk through a bunch of this stuff and you can have it for free. And it can just get you going and get you into the mindset of how to grow each day in faith, family, and fitness. All right, that's what we got. Let's get after it.